been praying on it. Time to act on it. Let them waste my time for far too long. I don't be moved, but not again. Better come all the way correct or stay away.
Fresh killer. What up, tribe? So our next guest is a South African-based artist by way of Cameroon. She has a sultry sound and a beautiful face, as you can see, and infectious energy. She also is extremely intelligent, as she is currently in the final year of her PhD program. She also just drops an EP entitled Miracle. Ladies and gentlemen of the tribe, please welcome Ajoh. Hey there. How you doing, young lady?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing really good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm solid. I think I'm doing okay. I think so. Yeah, for sure. Well, you look really lovely. Absolutely appreciate you taking a little bit of time off from work. We'll keep that on a hush though. So hey, check it out. Off the rip, on this podcast, we have had a Ghanaian, we have had a South African, we have had a Colombian, we have had a Haitian, we've had several Black Americans, but you are the first Cameroonian person. So, so I'm just wondering, what can you tell us? What makes Cameroon so unique?
I would say that the most interesting thing about Cameroon is, I would say, the food, the diversity of food that we have, and cultures just generally. We have so many different types of food because we're a very multicultural country, right? Like, we have so many different languages. I think we speak over 200 and something native languages in Cameroon. Yeah, for a population that's not very large, because we're only about 22, 23 million people for 250 or more languages. So I think that's really interesting. And I think we're the only African country that has both English and French as official languages. And just generally, we're very vibey. When I speak to other people who have met Cameroonians, they say, oh, Cameroonians are very nice and welcoming. Personally, I don't know if I can say that about every Cameroonian. I suppose we're nice to strangers. We're very warm and welcoming like that. But we're very passionate people, our country is not an easy country to live in, so you have to really grow like thick skin to survive over there, like most African countries, really. But yeah, it's hot, depending on where. Like my city where I come from in Douala, it's very, very hot and humid. So people are short because already they're with a lot, so it's easy to get people off. But other than that, I think it's a very beautiful country. We have beautiful culture, and just, I love it there, man. I love it. It's home. It's home.
Yeah, that's straight. So at some point you decided to move to South Africa, yeah? How long have you been in South Africa? Like, how old were you? Well, no, we're not gonna say anything about age. You as a woman, I'm not gonna go there, but how long had you been in South Africa?
I don't mind talking about my age.
How old were you then? Let's do it then. How old were you when you moved to South Africa?
I was 18 when I moved to South Africa. I was a young, naive, very young and very naive person when I moved to South Africa, as most of us are at 18. And I've been there now. I went there for my university studies. So I started from undergrad there, and I've been going to school ever since. That's why I'm now in my final year of my PhD. So it's taken me 10 years to 11 years to get here. But it's the place where Cape Town is the place where I think I grew into myself, into like an adult who has an idea of what she wants out of life, and things like that. So it's very much home to me. Yeah.
Right. And would you say there are more opportunities in South Africa versus in Cameroon?
I mean, I think it depends how you look at it, but from where I was at the time, well, let's say our university education in Cameroon is not recognized internationally as a degree from South Africa, for example. With my certificate, if I had my degree from Cameroon, I might have to come out here. If say I had my master's in Cameroon and I wanted to do a PhD in America, I might have to do one or two things to prove that my qualification as valid or as this or that. But in South Africa, it's pretty well established and recognized internationally. You might still have to do one or two courses to like reach. I mean, when I was applying for my visa to come to the US now, they were not sure that I can speak good English. So, you know, I don't know, but in terms of the systems work, I think they work much better in South Africa. There's corruption everywhere, but I think it's way less. It's way less in South Africa, and you can walk into an office and apply for something and be almost sure that you'll get a result. That doesn't depend on who you know in the office, because in Cameroon it tends to be a matter of who you know, and usually if you're not well connected, things can be extremely difficult for you. But if you're well connected, you might find life a lot easier. So it just depends on where you find yourself in life. But I find that South Africa is way more progressive in terms of how I'd like to live as a woman. You know, I find that I have a lot more freedoms in South Africa than I would in Cameroon, because it's still, even though South Africa is quite conservative, it's not as conservative as Cameroon. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, you know, that's dope. You know, I was recently I was in South Africa at the top of this year, right? I spent the holidays in South Africa. And in South Africa, I came in contact with several people from Zimbabwe, and like the drivers and things like that were from Zim. And I couldn't quite understand why, like what can I say, the role of South Africa in sub-Saharan Africa, and how people escape, not just from Zimbabwe, but I use the word escape, but people leave, they look at it as they're escaping. And so from Congo, from Malawi, from Zimbabwe, and they would go to South Africa because they would argue that there's much more opportunity now. So looking at it through my American lens, like I just couldn't understand it, right? Like I just couldn't understand the depth like of the issue until I actually went to Victoria Falls. I went to Zimbabwe, and I saw like the amount of dysfunction. I saw corruption as soon as I got into the airport. Like I was like, when it was time to buy a visa, I was like, how much is it? Wait, what? When it was time to get a hotel, they were just like, I was like, how much is it? They were like, where are you from? I was like, wait, what? I was like, what? Like, oh, you American? For you, let me get off the calculator. I was like, wait, hold up. Like, and so I didn't understand it. So that like changed my whole, I was like, oh, I began to understand why people are like fleeing to South Africa, particularly from Zimbabwe. Now, I don't know the situation in Cameroon, but would you say that it's a similar situation to that in order for you to be your whole self, and in order for you to achieve everything that you think you can achieve, would you say that you had to leave Cameroon?
I mean, when I made the decision to move to South Africa, it was more from a financial perspective. Like, it was the place where I could go to a university that won't cost my dad an arm and a leg, you know, to pay my fees and everything. So compared to the US or to Canada or to Europe, South Africa was just more affordable. But in many ways, yes, it's very similar to what you've described, right? In Zimbabwe, like, I mean, I find it easier to apply for a passport in South Africa, a Cameroonian passport from South Africa, and get it, than a Cameroonian in Cameroon, if that makes sense.
Right.
When I went back home after, the first time I went home was in 2019. That was after almost 9 years. So I didn't have my Cameroonian ID card. And so I went to apply for one and I had to pay more than triple what it actually cost. Until today, I haven't seen it with my 2 eyes, you know.
Wow.
I have, but I don't have the actual ID card. It's not out yet. So there's a lot of things that just it's just harder in Cameroon than, I mean, it's just, I like to think of South Africa as almost like the America of Africa. Like it's that country.
Yes.
Not perfect, has its flaws and its problems, but at least you know that if you get there and you're willing to work hard and do, you can surely find a way easier, I think, than it might be in Cameroon or, you know, in other African, some African countries, from, you know, this just now from my perspective.
Yeah. No, yes, it was, wow. It was no, it was mind blowing for me, because you hear people complain, great people in Zimbabwe, right? And I don't even want to speak like in these generalizations, but as soon as I got in there, there were like rumblings about the government and about corruption, like on the way to where I was going.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you see it, and it's just, they're so like, so brazen with it. I was like, yo, like went to the airport one time. Well, we're trying to get out of there and got pulled over. I caught COVID down there. It's a whole story. Follow my blog. I talked about it on my blog, like whatever. It's wild. Subscribe to the tribe. Subscribe to Ajoh Black Tribe. Do some back watching for all the people out there. But I was going to the airport one time. We got pulled over 3 times on the way to the airport, just police checkpoints. Randomly, my driver told me they're looking for money. Like, what? What? Like, they don't have to have a reason to pull you over, anything. They just pull you over. They're just looking, hey, what's up? What you got in here? Like, it was just things like that. Just like, whoa, okay, I see why y'all getting the hell up out of here. Like, for real.
Office where I went to apply for my ID, when I walked in. So I've now paid the first the money that I paid to the other lady, and I was so shocked that it was an on top of the table transaction, not under the table. And I mean, there were people this is how things are done. And I feel like I thought I was done there. So I go now to the lady who's gonna take my photo, and she asked me, so where's my own Christmas? So this was
whoa, oh my God, I heard that. So everybody needs money. Yeah. Everybody's like, you paid her off, but what about me?
Definitely. So it's that situation. I mean, we have situations where people, you all go into a hall to write like a board exam or something. You write, and then you get out, and when the results come out, the list of those who made it into the hall to write and the list of those who passed don't add up. And if someone's uncle or auntie just feels like their niece wants to get into this thing, they will remove your name if they don't know who you are and slot someone else in your position. Like, it's things like that, man. It's very difficult and annoying, and people just, so because of that, everybody sort of has to find a place where they can also how can I say, like, for example, the police officers, right? Maybe they're not getting paid enough, or they're not getting paid at all, and they have families that they have to feed and all that. So now they have to find someplace else to make some money, and then the people on the road become that source of another kind of income. So it's that kind of situation where, because you're being cheated in one place, you feel like you have to also like cut corners to just to make ends meet for yourself and your family and stuff like that. So it's very difficult and very sad, you know, very sad that we have to be reduced to this types of this kinds of ways of making a living that are not necessarily the most dignifying, you know.
And I also want to take the time to point out, thank you for mentioning that. I also want to take the time to point out, like, colonialism and Western exploitation that exploits these countries for their resources. They don't get that money. So they have to they have to scrounge and everything like that, because they're rich with resources, but they don't get that money because of Western powers like United States, like Britain, like France. So we definitely want to point that out as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so okay, you being in South Africa, there have been reports about immigrants, about foreigners not being treated well in South Africa from like um, from the South African people, right? And so I'm wondering, how have you been received in South Africa as a Cameroonian?
Hmm.
Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Come on now, don't bite your tongue.
I get a lot, especially as soon as I say I'm from South Africa. That's almost the next question. I mean, I had a whole conversation with a Uber driver in the US about how they killing foreigners and Somalis. I think he was Somali in South Africa, and it's very sad, right? I mean, of course, we know by now that the news knows how to blow things way out of proportion, and it just makes it seem like every person, every South African is just trying to hurt or kill or do something terrible to a foreign national. But living in South Africa for as long as I have, it's more complex than that, right? It's more complex than South Africans hate foreigners. It's not that. From my personal experience, I've not personally experienced like hate or just unwarranted aggression from a fellow South African. I have actually quite a few South African friends that not just people I know, like my people, right? That they're with me for birthdays, for parties, for the difficult times of life, like people who are really genuinely in my corner who are South Africans. My supervisors, my lecturers, most of them have been South Africans, and I can't say that I've had any difficulties there. Like the people funding my PhD, funding my master's, they were all South African institutions that have made these opportunities possible for me, regardless of the fact that I'm a foreign national. That said, we can't also deny that there are very strong not just anti-foreigner, but anti-Black foreigner feelings and sentiments in South Africa. But I think that there's a lot of politics at play there. If you look at any time where there has been a crazy xenophobic outbreak, you'll find that behind it, there's some politics, some politician said something, some influential person said something to ignite, to just fuel these frustrations. What I think is happening is that the poorest people in South Africa are the Black foreigners, and the people who have failed them are their politicians, their leaders, right? And when the time for election comes, or when people are starting to get angry, the foreigner is the scapegoat in the situation, that the leaders of the country or the politicians or the chiefs can say, these are the people taking your jobs. These are the people bringing drugs in the country. These are the people doing illegal things, so that the heat is not so much on the government and people who are not as well informed, or they've not really, they don't really know how their own country works in regards to foreigners. They easily get caught up in these narratives about the illegal foreigner or the drug selling foreigner and things like that. And then things can escalate from there. What the government doesn't tell these people is that no one gives you anything as a foreigner unless you've really worked for. I mean, I've been really blessed to get these funding opportunities to study. But for every one scholarship that there is for me as a foreigner, there's like 15 for South African nationals, right? Yeah, because almost every email I get regarding scholarships for South African citizens only, So for every one that I qualify for, there's about 10 others that I don't qualify for because I'm not South African. It's understandable. It's your country. You want to put your locals first, right? I really struggle with the notion that South Africans hate foreigners. I don't like it because I've lived there 10 years, and I can say that I personally have not felt or seen anything that seems like a proof that definitely South Africans hate foreigners. I don't know that, because any country will favor its own locals before foreign nationals, for jobs, for opportunities, for resources. It's just how the governments work, right? Your people come first, and then where your people cannot really meet in terms of skills and whatnot, then the foreigners and whoever else comes in. So yeah, it's very complicated, but I love Cape Town. That's where I want to. It's where I would ideally love to settle and all that. It has problems, but it's not as bad as as the media makes it sound. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know. Maybe another foreigner will have a completely different story to tell you because they've.
But I'm not interviewing another foreigner. I'm interviewing you. This is your time. This is your opinion, and this is what matters right now. And you spoke about Cape Town. I will say Cape Town is a gorgeous place. Cape Town is super nice. I do like Cape Town. I'm gonna tell you something though. Got to be honest with you. So I flew, that's my first time ever on the continent, right? Got in on December of 2021. Set foot in Cape Town. It's like, oh, all the emotional things, as a Black American, the way that the conscious crowd, the way that we look at Africa is just like
heaven on earth.
Yes. No, like, so before slavery and before the white man, before all these devastating things happened to the culture, there was Africa, right? And so Africa is just the heart of Blackness and the heart of culture and just all things righteous and all of that, just Blackness. We are minorities. And as a well-traveled woman, you have been to the United States several times, right? And so we're a minority there. We only represent, people watch a lot of Beyonce videos and then they watch Tyler Perry movies. Maybe they think we represent a larger population than we actually do, but we're like 12, 13% tops of the population. So I want to be surrounded by my people all of the time, right? This is what I'm thinking when I go to Africa. But, this is going, but I land in Cape Town. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm just like, what the hell? I was like, there's so many white people here. I was at Sea Point. I was at So I was like, what is happening here? White people everywhere, white people walking their dogs, white people owning everything, white people in expensive cars. I was just like, this is too much like America.
Yeah.
Got on a plane, went to Johannesburg, went straight to Soweto. So yeah, there was that, like, oh man, but Cape Town is nice, but is awfully white.
It's very white in Cape Town, definitely. Cape Town is where you really see the worst of the inequality between white people and Black people. It's not nice to see sometimes. In fact, what am I saying sometimes? It's not nice to see, but as a girl who comes from Cameroon where everybody is Black, I can tell you.
Talk about it.
I tell you that the romanticizing Africa, it bothers me a lot.
Bothers you.
It bothers me a lot the way that Black Americans tend to idolize Africa in a way. And I'm like, y'all don't want none of this. It's nice in theory, right? The motherland, I'm in Africa. It's like you expect that when you get home, the Lion King soundtrack will start playing and it's going to be, just like, guys, no.
Yeah.
No.
Let me tell you something. When I was in they were actually singing that when I landed in Victoria Falls. They had people that were getting tips and they were singing the Lion King. They understood the assignment. Like they know.
They know how to get you as tourists. They know exactly what to do to get the tourists, right? Because that's the idea you're coming for, and they're gonna sell you that dream. But it's not necessarily like that. For Africans, Africa is not a fairy tale. It's definitely far, far, far from that, because living in America for the few months, it's about 2 to 3 months that I've lived here now, there are so many things that I just find work so well here, that it doesn't matter your race, I mean, this could be me coming from my African perspective. And I've heard a lot of comments from South Africans and from Black Americans that Africans don't really understand the dynamics and the complexities of race and racism and this and that. So we come with our, mindset, and we don't see racism anywhere. And and
That's a big debate happening right now within our community, but go ahead.
Yeah, and it might be true. It might be true that because we come from countries where we don't really have to deal with race politics, we don't really understand that, the fundamentals and the complexities involved in all kinds of racial interactions. But I think where I'm coming from is from, because I grew up in a country where everyone was Black, essentially. I can also see how, even if we manage to read the world of racism today, we just ourselves will find a way to start fighting over something else. In Cameroon, we are fighting. I mean, we could trace it back to colonialism, but we cannot trace all our problems. We can't keep tracing all our problems back to colonialism, and because we will never find a way forward. Some things are really on us, in my opinion. Some problems are really on us that we could do something about it, but we just don't. I mean, the people who are busy harming and doing the most unspeakable things are not a white person. We can say, yes, they have been brainwashed, but how long are we going to keep saying that people have been brainwashed? At what point do we start to take responsibility that, oh, this is not a white man's problem anymore? This is now our shit that we need to be dealing with, and that's where I usually come from with the race conversation. It's like, yes, of course, racism is a serious problem, but there are worse problems. maybe when I say it like that, it sounds insensitive, but when you live in America, like I've lived, but of course I haven't lived here for long, so I have maybe not encountered a racist policeman or encountered racism at work or things like that, so I don't have the experience to speak from. But I just feel like we spend so much time doing the blaming instead of taking accountability, and that's what I have a problem with. And I mean, we could talk about people who've also been oppressed, like the Jews. Like, why? Okay, we can say that the Jews can easily blend into different spaces because their skin and hair sort of,
They're white. They are white. Yes.
They have experienced their own set of problems, but somehow, how did they get out of that? I feel like that's the conversation I want us to start having. Like, how do we break that cycle? How do we get out of the trap of being racially discriminated upon, of being in this minority category, or in a country like Cameroon where we are all Black? There's no minority, there's no other race they're oppressing us. Our governments, ministers, judges, everyone is Black, but we are still so severely, just, we're not moving, we're not progressing in the way that we would like. So if Blackness is all of that, well, how come most Africans are fleeing to where there's whiteness? Why are we all running to America and running to Europe and running to all these places if it's all that? We like to do we are Black kings and Black queens. Some of our ancestors were not kings or queens, they were palm wine tappers. They were palm wine tappers. Some of the people who are holding the flag for Blackness and our ancestors, some of those ancestors were the snitches. They were the ones that went into the interiors to arrest, to like capture other Black people and sell them white people.
Over me, because you said some of our ancestors were snitches. Like, that hurts. That hurts. No.
Like Cameroon, for instance, right? Where malaria and typhoid and all these things that the white people their immune systems were not strong enough to handle. A lot of them stayed at the coast, and it was other tribes that would attack the Black people who fight each other and then capture whoever loses the war and come and sell them as slaves to the white man. In some places, yes, Black people were forcefully taken, but there are stories of people selling their slaves. You know how black chiefs also had slaves back then, and they'll sell them for eyeglasses, for mirrors, for this and that. So there's so many things about our black history that we black people are not even ready to look at, because we are so caught up on the black is king and black is queen mindset. You know, once upon a time they killed twins. Once upon a time we killed albinos because we thought they were I don't know, from the devil, and we sacrificed them to our mountain gods, you know. So there are many things about blackness that we don't know, we don't understand, and when we romanticize it and just make it to be this perfectly amazing thing, we miss the opportunity to actually to get to the core of the issue. And the core of the issue is not a race thing, it's a human thing.
Okay, all right. So I want to go back to the statement that you made when you said, if blackness is all that, then why are we fleeing to move next to white people? Okay. And you talk about it's not a color issue, it's a human issue. So I want to pose that question to you as a Cameroonian Black woman who's moved to South Africa, who's been in the United States, right? And you've done your travels, you've seen this from multiple perspectives, or you've been around people that have different perspectives at least. And I want to pose that question to you, right? Like, we are Black, but and I also, and from what I've heard in South Africa, what I experienced in South Africa, and this hurt me. I don't know how I don't know how I feel. I know that this makes me uncomfortable to hear, but this is something that I heard from multiple people. They said that, well, in South Africa, the government is the most stable because it has the most white people. That's what they said in sub-Saharan Africa. And they said in Cape Town in particular, it has the most white people, but things work the best. And this is something it made me feel like nauseous almost, like, oh, I don't like anything about that, but I heard it from multiple people. So that is a truth for a lot of Black people, like, believe that to be true. That's their belief system. And so I was just wondering what is at the core of this issue, and why do we feel like we have to be around white people to be successful? Like, what is at the core of the problem? Why do we have to flee to go to white schools, right? We want our kids educated where the white people are because that's the good school, right? And the white neighborhoods and the white countries and so on and so forth. What is at the core of that? Why is that the case?
I can't say that I have the answer to this question, but I've definitely heard this comment that you just made a few times, right? Actually, multiple times, especially among foreign nationals in South Africa and specifically Cape Town, that the reason why it functions the way it functions is because the government of Cape Town is predominantly white. The DA, that's party that's in Cape Town, and wherever the ANC is, you don't see as much order, or I don't know how it is that we are measuring these things, but the issues that make people flee towards the whiter side of things, you find that those problems grow the more it's like in an ANC place. But this is what I would then say. This is some of the places where it's actually valid to go back to our conditioning, right? To go back to colonialism and what that does to a person's brain, and how we get to start thinking about ourselves in relation to the other. Of course, if the white schools got the best resources, the best amenities, the best labs, the best infrastructure, and you're looking for a bright future for your child, and the structures that allow for this university to remain the top university have not been dismantled. When you're thinking about survival of you and just you and your family, it sort of makes sense to want to send your child there, because you know that somehow by going to that school, you will come out and your degree will not be questioned, you will get access to places, you have this, you have that. And I feel, this is now just from my perspective, that those could be some of the reasons, right? I could have stayed in Cameroon. I could have had a degree. There are a lot of people who stay in Cameroon and go to the university and have their degrees over there. And depending on how savvy you are with the world, you can use those same qualifications and make an amazing life for yourself, as a lot of people are doing. But then why do I leave to come to South Africa? Because I'm thinking that it will give me more opportunities, better this and better that, than someone who has it from there. And it's the same thing, like I would ask, like, why do we do the fees must fall for UCT and WITS and this previously white institutions, when there are universities like UWC and the University of the Free State and a few others that...
I'm sorry, you said, why do we do the what? I'm not familiar. The what now? What is it?
Fall is like a protest that erupted in a movement of sorts that erupted in South Africa around 2015, where demanding access to tertiary institutions.
To white institutions, basically.
Yeah. Okay. The riots started at these previously white universities, like the University of Cape Town, the University of the Witwatersrand. Those were the places that pioneered that movement. So the question for me was, and so I really can't say. I would say that it's generational brainwashing. It's generational brainwashing, where we have somehow been conditioned to respect. And it's not just with the opportunities that you get when you leave a certain type of university or certain school. It's also just the way sometimes I find that we are more behaved. I don't know, when we are at a certain institution, we don't litter, we put things in the correct bin. We I don't know, we minimize the amount of noise we are making because it's like this. But when you go to our neighborhoods, we throw dirt wherever we want. Nobody can try to, like, if you are that person who tries to, like, keep things sort of neat and whatnot, they will say, what are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to be? Oh, you're trying to, it's actually a very complicated thing. Like, if you see, for example, someone who goes into fitness, yoga, that kind of direction, where they want to take care of themselves as Black people, you'll have other Black people tell them, oh, this one thinks is white, or, oh, these things are not for Black people. You go skydiving. What kind of Black person are you going skydiving? So there's a certain way that sometimes we how can I say it? There's this tension between an admiration for what the other has, right? But then we don't have I don't know if it's an equal commitment to making our things just as good and just as amazing as the option that's already available. Because if you were going to make, like, if we're, like we always say, build our table. See, for example, someone like Tyler Perry, right? He's managed to build that table for himself, where he can now hire who he wants. It's now prestigious to say that you've worked in a movie with Tyler Perry and you belong to this cast or whatever. But that takes time. That takes so much time. It takes years. It takes determination. It takes a lot of no's that you, like, I'm sure if Tyler Perry sits us down and tell us a story about how that happened, most of us are not willing to go through all that pain. So instead, it's so much easier to just go to a path that is already established, a place where the rules are already set. You don't have to sort of think about it or make them up yourself. You just go and commit to what's already there. But if we are serious about building our things back to that kind of level where we choose to go to a Black institution over a previously white institution, that would take a lot of time. It would take going with it, even when you're getting bad service, even when the food is not as good or the education is not yet as strong as you want it to be able to compete. I don't know, but it would take a different kind of, I don't know, a real commitment to Blackness, not just to picking and choosing, because we can pick when the culture is sweet. We're like, oh yeah, Black is king. We are the, we are the best. We are the this and we are that. And then all of a sudden, when things are not so great, we find ourselves running to where things are a little easier. So I don't know. Honestly, I can't even say that I'm answering your question or that I even have enough knowledge to even attempt it. But yeah.
Listen, so we're talking about, like, all these political things, and like, you're an intellectual and you're global. Like you've been to all these different places.
Not that, but okay. I get you.
Cameroon, South Africa, Minneapolis, United States. I don't know, maybe some places in between, I'm assuming.
Only one.
Okay, all right. Well, you've been around a little bit. You've been around a little bit, right?
Yes.
And so I have found that with me being almost a hyper analytical person, it's hard for me to turn it off, right? And so would you say that your music is a place where you can kind of redirect all of that energy?
No. When music is something that I just sort of stumbled into, it wasn't something that I thought intentionally. Like I wasn't one of those people that started singing very young, and so I always knew that this was where my life was gonna go. I mean, by the time I was 18 or so, I figured I really want to try with this music thing. But it wasn't. So to answer your question, I'm trying to answer your question in a way. Music is like any other thing in my life, right? It's one way, one way. And I wouldn't even say that I redirect something to. I just like music so much, especially because I write lyrics, because I can say what I have to say without referencing 150 other people, the way we do in in academia, right? I can say my point and move on in 3 minutes. I don't have to write a 2 minutes, a 200-page dissertation to say what I want to say, and read 1 million books to say what I want to say. So in that way, it just allows me to be expressive the way I feel like being expressive, and if you listen to my music, you will find that it's not very political in it's more like feel good, like let's do our best. I try to keep things here mostly, like what am I doing? I'm doing my best, or how am I hurting you? How do I fix it? So my music is more, I honestly, sometimes I feel like there's a lot of the heavy stuff out there, and my role in life is just to bring in the ease and a bit of comfort, a bit of, vibes, where it's like, even when I do my presentations, my academic presentations, when my time comes, everyone is laughing because my data, my participants, they're very funny. So it just, after all the serious conversations about race and gender and power and inequality and this and that, and then I come with friendship, and everybody's like, we all can relate to that. Oh, your participants are very interesting and funny. So it's the same kind of idea with my music, where I try to keep things a little light. And if I do get serious, I mostly try to bring it back to you, to us as individuals. Like, what am I doing? How am I amazing? How am I? What places do I need to work on? As much less than it would be about. I mean, maybe one day I'm inspired and I write a whole project about the injustices and inequalities that surround us in this world. But mostly I like to talk about ease. I like to find the places where we can be at ease with each other across, the lines of conflict. So for me, that's what I think. Overall, that might just be my life's job to, like, I don't know how well familiar you are with Nigerian slang, but I'm that person who's there for the cruise. I catch cruise and I try and get everybody to catch cruise with me. That's me. So music is just one more way. Like, I could say that the place where I really maybe redirect when is by fitness. It's when workout, then I'm like, okay, time to blow off some steam. But again, I can't really say that, because when I'm happy, I want to go to the gym. When I'm unhappy, I want to go to the gym. If I'm angry, I want to go to the gym. So it's like, these are just parts of me, you know. It's like having a foot and an arm and whatnot. They're just parts of me, and somehow all of these things work together to sort of keep me functioning at the best of my ability, you know, and doing what I feel like I'm on this earth to do, which is help people catch crews and and think more introspectively about life. Yeah.
Yo, so well, first off, I love a good workout as well. I was in the gym 6 o'clock in the morning, so I relate to you with that. But another thing I noticed about your music, you said your music isn't very political, just here for the cruise. Totally, I picked up on that. One other thing that I noticed was very central to your music is this sensuality. You have this single, you have a video called Mr. Magu Magu. It's like it's really sensual. And do you consider yourself to be a sensual person? Like, do you lead with your sensuality in certain spaces? Because if someone were to watch that video and didn't know you at all, it'd be like, oh, like, like yeah. So what do you think about like this idea of sensuality? What role does that play for you and in your music?
Um, I'm a Taurus, right? I don't know if your audience follows the horoscope and all of these interesting things. I find because they're not like the best way to determine what you're gonna do or who you are in life. But one thing about the Taurus is we are pleasure oriented, right?
Yeah.
We are pleasure oriented, and so I gain a lot of pleasure from being my full self, and a part of being me is being sensual, right? I am very touchy, and I like touch. I always say that that's my love language. And when I know you like that, you know, then I can become very, very sensual. People who know me like that will say I'm a tease sometimes, but not me saying it, it's them.
Oh, interesting.
But like I like the idea of teasing someone, enticing. Um, um, I won't say that I go out seeking that type of attention, but I feel like such attention finds me just as I'm doing my life, you know. So Mr. Mago Mago is for that particular song, I wanted it to be sensual, yes, but a kind of sensuality that does not come with a partner, a kind of sensuality where I'm feeling myself enough to be sensual with myself, for myself, regardless of Mr. Mago Mago. So I'm saying to Mr. Mago Mago that I enjoy my company, I cherish myself, I feel sexy, I feel sensual, and I love it. And I don't want you to come with your trickery and upset this wholesome balance that I've sort of created, right, with myself. I try to live a very romantic life. And romance is, in this sense, not a romance with a person that I'm romantically attracted to or sexually attracted to. But even though I was giving you a lot of trouble for romanticizing Africa, I do that a lot with my life, right? I'll romanticize the little things and the little aspects. So sometimes I'll wear my lingerie by myself in my house and just enjoy being sexy for myself, you know, and a certain kind of attention to my feelings and how I'm doing mentally and all of that. It's almost like I am in a relationship with myself, and I have to you know, really take care of me. So that's what Mr. Mago Mago was about. Like, there's this idea that when a woman doesn't have a man in her life or a romantic partner in her life, then she's the sad. I'm sure you've watched the romantic movies. She's angry, she's uptight, and then all of a sudden the man comes in and she's like, ha, 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 ha. She's singing, she's laughing. And I'm just like, really? Really? Is this it? So Mr. Mago Mago was really like, no, we are not only happy when there is a man, we are not only sexy and sensual when there is an other to please. I can do all this for myself. That's why I'm in the tub by myself. I am mostly by myself in the video, just, enjoying my life and doing my own kind of stuff. And yeah, that's where I was going with the song.
Yeah, what's your favorite song on the album? On the EP? Uh-oh.
Oh, that's a difficult question to answer. Because every day,
it's like asking your favorite kid, right?
Yeah, it's like that. Because what do you want me to say?
No, I want you to I don't want you to say anything. I want you to answer truthfully. Do you have a favorite? How about that? Do you have a favorite song?
So I'll say that Woman of Your Dreams is my favorite song, in the sense that it's sexy, it's strong. It's like, yes, I am the woman of your dreams, right? Like, everything you've ever imagined, you will find it in me if you are just willing to go along with this, right? And I like the music in it. I like how it takes you on a whole journey. You start from somewhere, then you're in salsa, then you're in rumba, then it's a whole, I just love how surprises keep coming in the song right up until the end. So for that, and Woman of Your Dreams, I think, is also a song that I've performed live in a few places, and it's got amazing reactions from the audience. So I think I have just a personal attachment to that particular song. But funny enough, it's probably the most fictional of all the songs I wrote, because I will not be pounding Ajoh or cooking kwakuko and doing all the cooking that I was saying I would do.
Whoa. Hold up. Hold on. Your husband, or this person that you're going to fall in love with, you're not going to take care, you're not going to cook for that person?
I have my other ways of showing that I care for you. It's not necessarily in the kitchen. But the reason why I had that in the song is because a lot of women, actually, that's their preferred way of showing, right? That they care and they're nurturing and all those nice things. So I was like, you know what? There is a woman out there who would definitely cook the kwakuko. And I mean, if I had to cook it, I would learn how to cook it and it would be great. That's really what I'm saying. I'm not saying I can do it right now, but if I had to, I could learn and I'll be good at it. But as of the reality of my situation right now, I'm just generally not the chores girl. I hate chores, all of it. But it's very true for some women, and that's the woman I had in my mind. Because sometimes when I speak, people might think that I am against a traditional, a more traditional approach to life and relationships, but I'm not. It's just a matter of to each their own. If that's where you are happy and you find a man or a person who can accommodate you in all the ways that you think a relationship should be. My sister is married, and she definitely believes that she should make good food for her husband and take care of the house and make sure that he has a nice homey environment. And I'm like, it works for y'all, I'm happy for you guys, but for me and my ideal partner, we'll have a slightly different arrangement. A slightly different arrangement. So that's Woman of Your Dreams, right? That's why I love that song, because it's just so, I love the music, the lyrics, the energy. Is just so playful and beautiful. I love it. But then I also really, really love Journey, right? Journey and Miracle, those two songs. Miracle, because Miracle is actually the truest. Like, it's not like the other songs are lies or anything, but I really wrote it from a real place in my life. It was about that journey of losing myself for so many years and eventually finding my way back, to me. And it's one of the most actually the most recent song. I wrote it in 2020, so almost all the other songs are like 2017, 18 and so, but Miracle was the closest song to where I was at the time when I recorded the project. So I feel a strong connection to that song, because it really speaks to me about the battle I've really had to battle to find my way back to myself. And for me, that's like my victory song. That's why at the end it's a miracle and we are celebrating it, and it's all these nice things, because that's what it was. And then Journey is where I like it because to be dancey, and I like to dance. So I like that it has the drums, and it's just yeah. So those would be my top three. Let me say that. Those are my top three.
It's a great EP. It's extremely soulful and has a lot of other feels to it. And I definitely enjoy listening to it. Where can people buy it?
It's on all the platforms. So it's on Apple Music, it's on Spotify, it's on all of them, Deezer, Boomplay, wherever it is that you listen to music, it is on there. So buying, I think it's mostly just Apple Music where you can buy. Yeah, and then it's mostly digital. I don't have I didn't print any CDs or vinyl or anything like that. So you would have to rely on the Apple Music store or the other streaming platforms.
Okay, I have one more question. I want you to take this wherever you want to. What does success look like for you?
This is a question I've definitely thought a lot about. So maybe I have an answer for you. Success for me is feeling like I am living life that is aligned with the divine purpose, right? Regardless of so I think that that's the purpose of life. It's not necessarily to make money or to change the world or some of the other things I used to say were my life's purpose. I think now where I'm at is when I find that I am living in alignment, when I find that my spirit, my soul, my body, my finances are all aligned, then I feel really good. I feel happy. I feel super blessed. And it's almost I'm mostly existing in almost like a state of bliss where I really just enjoy living my life, living in my body, having control over my time. That's a key thing. Sometimes that means you don't make as much money when you have or it means you're either already a billionaire and so you can decide what you want to do or not, or you're in my situation where I'm doing my PhD, I'm lecturing. These are things that don't really require that I sit in an office from 9 to 5 every day. So I have that flexibility over my days and my time. And for me, I feel like I'm already successful. I'm just now trying to make the money so that I can really like live it large. You know what I mean? Like I feel success. Yeah, that for me, success, feeling like I am in alignment with what I'm on this earth to do, feeling like I have recognized or I am on that divine path that has been laid out for me. And as long as I'm there, success is a consequence, of being in alignment. So I strive for alignment more than some idea out there of what success, or I don't know. I mean, if you're speaking about, most people speak of success in a financial way or like job success or things like that. I feel like I can have a lot of financial and career success and be completely miserable, right? So I can have all the earthly things and be totally miserable. But in this position where I don't necessarily feel like I have even half of what I want, I've managed to be extremely happy for a very long time. And I wasn't always happy. I mean, this just started happening around 2019. So that for me is just like, I've made it where I can somehow live almost slightly above my emotions and always manage to find ease and find comfort and happiness no matter how bad the situation is. And that to me is It's the real secret of life for me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. What are the socials? How can people follow you?
On all the okay, I'm only really active on Instagram, which I am _Ajoh. But it's also the same handle for my Twitter and my TikTok. I have those accounts, and every now and then I'll pop up there, but I'm really mostly on Instagram because, like I said, I pick and choose my battles. I cannot kill myself. I pick and choose my battles. So yeah, the easiest place to find me is Instagram. I am Ajoh. But if you're more Twitter or TikTok, or I don't have Snapchat and a lot of the other platforms, but yeah, Instagram, Twitter, and sometimes Facebook, but very rarely. And it's all the same handle. I am Ajoh everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am Say it again.
There's also my website.
Okay. What's the website?
ajohofficial.com.
Okay.
So you can also find information about me and my upcoming projects and everything on there.
Okay, that's ajohofficial.com.
Yeah.
And that's IM_Ajoh on Instagram. Please follow this woman. She works out a lot. Her Instagram's dope. She also has an amazing album that you need to buy. It is called Miracle. And we want to support this sister in every conceivable way, not just a pretty face, also extremely intelligent, and she's going places fast. You want to be on that team to be like, oh, I've been rocking with her. I've been knowing her.
You know, because I know the people. I will not dash you money if you have not been following me and been on my side for a while.
Now's the time. That day one bandwagon is still a little bit of space on it because she's about to take off.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate the tribe, man. Follow that sister, get down with her. You know how we do. I am Roger Porter, your righteous and humble host. Peace, tribe.
Oh, yeah.